BBC One, now seen for the first time in Britain in more than 70 years and live from Cornwall. Articles, a total eclipse, introduced by Michael Burke.
Hello and welcome to Cornwall for Total Eclipse Live, the moment that Britain's been waiting for. Hello, welcome to Cornwall for Total Eclipse Live, the moment that Britain's been waiting for. To join us just about in this beautiful part of Cornwall at the Sailing Club in Marazion, right opposite St Michael's Mount out there. We're here to witness one of the most extraordinary natural events we'll see in our lives, certainly something I've never seen before. In about 85 minutes now, the sun's light will be completely blotted out by the moon. There's actually a lot of excitement out there. It's a typically British occasion, really, determined to make the most of it despite the weather and telling each other they should have been here yesterday, which of course was beautiful. Pretty cloudy here now, as you can see, but playing games across the whole of the southwest and changing by the minute. But whatever happens down here on Earth, one thing is absolutely certain. In exactly 11 minutes, the moon will begin to pass over the sun and mask out the light for the last time this millennium. And by 11 minutes past 11, it's funny the way it's all the 11s this morning, it'll be completely dark here. The last time a total eclipse was visible from this spot was 284 years ago, in May 1715. Well, with me is Professor John Parkinson, who's a physicist and eclipse chaser, with, he tells me, a 100% record of being able to see total eclipses that he's chased, though he's never chased one in Britain before. Looking very dapper this morning, I don't really notice. And Dr. Mark Porter, who's going to remind us yet again what precautions we need to take to see the eclipse safely.
I'm here with another eclipse chaser and photography specialist, Dr. Francisco Diego. And on the beach, we'll be checking to see how the world of nature reacts to the event. We have owls down there, we have crickets who are completely nonplussed by the event, and some dogs who may well be howling.
And over in Falmouth, just a few miles to the east here, is of course Patrick Moore. Patrick.
Hello, well, I'm here at St Anthony Head, and the sky at night chose this site 5 years ago because, as you can see behind me, there's a splendid view over to the west, and that's from there the moon shadow will come rushing towards us. And you know, I must admit, I'm excited because I've been looking forward to this eclipse now for the last 70 years. The only chance most of us are going to have to see a total eclipse from English soil. So all we need now is for these wretched clouds to clear away and give us a nice clear sky.
And so say all of us. Thanks, Patrick. And reporting from Alderney is Jamie Theakston, who had quite a rush to get there. Jamie, hi.
Yes, thanks very much, Michael. Yeah, to be honest, I was actually going to be joining you in Cornwall up until about 16 hours ago, but we managed to make it here by a rather bizarre combination of buses, planes, trains, even a builder's lorry. We even had the Navy on standby, but I won't go into that too much. But the weatherman said get to the Channel Islands because that's the best place to see it, so we arrived here in Alderney. Now, to be honest, without wishing to offend our hosts too much, we've been absolutely brilliant. Not a lot happens here in Alderney, but in about an hour and a half, this will be one of the most important places on the globe. I'm joined by about 250 astronomers here, and hopefully, weather permitting, what we're going to see is a huge shadow coming from the gannet colony, which you can see behind me. It'll come over my head at around 2,000 miles an hour before disappearing off to France over there. That'll be the last time that we see it on the British Isles. The weather's looking a little bit patchy, to be honest, but the Eclipse Rapid Response Unit here in Alderney is ready to go. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Jamie. Watch those gannets. And of course, we hope to bring you the best pictures of the eclipse with whatever cameras can see the sun down here in the southwest. We've got them out right to the west in the Isles of Scilly. There's the Isles of Scilly there, about 40 miles to the west of us where we are now. And the first part of the United Kingdom where the eclipse will strike. We've got cameras, of course, in Plymouth, which is the sort of main centre. There's our camera down on the Hoe, I think, of Plymouth, if I know Plymouth well enough. And we've got cameras at Torbay. There's Torbay. And earlier on this morning, the weather forecasters were saying Torbay was probably the best place on the mainland Alden is probably the best place really in our part of the world. Torbay is the best place in the mainland where we might be able to get a shot of the sun. Anyway, more importantly, particularly with this weather, about 10,000 feet or maybe even more above us is an RAF Hercules. There it is. It's lining up for the event. And we've got stabilized cameras on board, hopefully above the cloud. And they're already sending us some pictures of the sun, and we'll be getting more from them later on. Fingers crossed. Philippa.
But we're all under the cloud. We've also got someone who should know all about them, weather forecaster Helen Young. So Helen, down on the beach, what's the news?
Well, I'm very sorry, Philippa, but it is very cloudy here, particularly in Penzance just at the moment. Obviously, it's not like a cricket match or a tennis match where you can postpone it until the weather gets better. Those 2 minutes are really critical during totality, and it is fairly cloudy. If we take a look on the satellite picture at the moment, you can see there's lots of cloud coming in from the west. The thickest cloud is in the southwest, just where we don't want it, but as you can see, there are gaps as you head further east, particularly across towards East Anglia at the moment, so we may well see a partial eclipse there, and also around the London area out to the west around Oxfordshire. But we have seen rain coming out of the thick cloud. We had a spotted drizzle here in Penzance. Hopefully, I've got my fingers crossed, the rain will be staying well away. It's all due to low pressure. You can see it there out towards the west, working its way in just where we don't want it. The good news is it will be heading down across France later in the day, but not, it doesn't look during the total eclipse. Well, heading across the rest of Europe, you can see we've got low pressure as we head a little bit further eastwards as well. Munich and Paris look like having showers today. That may obliterate the view as well. Towards Bucharest and Ankara, well, here it looks as though it will be a little bit sunnier. And towards Iran, very good indeed. But what about back home? On the map, as you can see, there's a lot of cloud up the western side. Rain coming out over the Isles of Scilly, up into southern Ireland as well. Cloud across many western areas, right the way up into western Scotland. But as I go down the eastern side, well, here there are some holes in the clouds right the way down across into southeast England and perhaps around Alderney as well. Now later on I'll be coming back to look at some weather experiments because the eclipse does affect the local weather, so more from me later on. Now back to Philippa.
Thank you very much, Helen. Well, I'm still hoping for a miracle. One thing about the British weather, it's full of surprises. I saw the sunrise so clearly this morning, but about half a mile away up at the Radio 1 Club, there are real crowds. Simon Mayer's on air. Joining him later will be Fats and Smalls, Suede, and the Pet Shop Boys who've written a special track for the eclipse to be played during the period of totality itself. You can see the brave crowds already getting in the mood. A little later, we'll be talking to Emma B and chatting to the Pet Shop Boys about that special new eclipse track. Michael.
Well, if that looks crowded out there, then I'm afraid Cornwall this week is a bit like that, although not as crowded as many people had feared. It's reckoned that around 500,000 people have come down to Cornwall to catch a sight of the total eclipse. Most of them, of course, have come to the coast, wouldn't you? And already these areas, particularly those outside here, are pretty crowded. But the numbers, haven't been great enough to trigger any of the more drastic contingency plans.
Okay, well, it's just a little over 5 minutes to go before the start of the eclipse, the event that's brought all of those crowds. So, Francisco Diego, what exactly causes the event? It's a massive coincidence, isn't it?
It is a fantastic coincidence in our solar system that from our Earth we can see the sun and the moon the same size. We know the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but just by chance it happens to be also 400 times farther away. So the effect cancels out. We see them both have the same size in the sky.
Okay, we've got a great demonstration of that.
We have a great demonstration. Down on the beach we have the sun over there.
Yep.
And we can see it is about 3 meters in diameter. So if the sun was that size, our planet Earth will look like this.
This size.
Isn't that amazing? Then the moon will be as tiny as this little ball. So this tiny little thing, is going to cover the sun, which is far away over there.
Okay, so if we bring in this camera then. Is our camera?
Now
so
this is our standing point here. And I can move the moon and produce, you will realize how difficult it is to produce an eclipse. That's why eclipses are so rare. But I have to put the moon now, as it is at the moment, just about to start covering the sun in a few minutes, just there, and produce an eclipse. Look how they look the same size from our point of view there. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible. And this is the only coincidence of its sort in the solar system, is that right?
It is in this way, yes it is. And we are very fortunate to have this, because thanks to that we know a lot of things about the sun. We know a lot of things about stars in general, because all them are the same.
Okay. Fingers crossed we'll be able to see it. Let's pray for a chink in the cloud. Thank you very much, Francisco.
Pleasure.
And of course, looking up to see the beginnings of the eclipse is what everyone's going to be doing. But that's where the hazards come in, isn't it?
Thanks, Philippa. Thanks, Francisco. You know, Mark Porter, you've been banging on and on about looking up at the sun as if we didn't have the sun anyway. But I mean, we can be forgiven for banging on about it, can't we?
We have to bang on about it.
It'd be really silly if you lost your sight just on a day like today.
The sheer numbers of people who are going to be watching it, if there is a mistake. So I'll go through it again for the last time, hopefully. The safest way to watch it is the indirect viewing technique, not to look at the sun at all. Use some form of projection, and the simplest one is to use the two pieces of card, one with a pinhole, like this, okay? And we'll do more about that later on. Lots of people are going to be using these somewhat controversial solar viewers, but basically I would say make sure you've always got one that's got a CE mark on it, that's approved and designed for the job, and make sure it's in good nick and wear it properly, okay? And believe it or not, you can even get them for your pet. I found this, I thought this is great, isn't it? Solar viewers for your pet, made of course by Poochie.
All characterful stuff. John Parkinson, your first go here. Lovely waistcoat, I may say so. Lovely waistcoat, but it hasn't worked its spell yet, has it?
Well, made by my wife.
First contact, how far are we away from it now?
We are now just about 43 seconds away from the time which the moon first starts to eat up the sun.
30 seconds. I think we can actually go and see a picture of the sun here.
Oh, wow.
From, it's got to be from the Hercules, hasn't it?
It's got to be from the Hercules. They're obviously well above the clouds. It's jerking about a little bit. They must be...
Yeah, they've got a stabilised camera of that. Now, the whole point about this Hercules is it's in the sky. We're not precisely sure where it is, but if it was exactly above us, then there's some chance of it. How far away are we from it now?
We are coming up to 10 seconds away. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... now.
And if it's exactly above us, of course you don't actually see this, you've counted us into it terribly dramatically there, John, but you know, it takes a few moments for it to become apparent, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and the Hercules is flying a little bit to the west of us.
So it should have got it just a fraction of a second before
Yes, unfortunately the image isn't quite telescopic, and I think we can just see it beginning.
Yeah, whereabouts, yeah, can you just see it on the top right-hand side, 1 o'clock?
Just coming down here now.
You can just see a dent, can't you?
Just here. So we do, after all this waiting, have an eclipse.
As you predicted, and to the complete second.
Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Now, show us again, John, because it still isn't that clear, is it?
Well,
but it's 1 o'clock. If this was a clock, it's at 1 o'clock, isn't it? Yeah, you can see it now, look.
Yeah, you can see it. And we're going to take an hour and 10, 15 minutes or so for the moon to take a bigger and bigger bite out of the sun, steadily making it disappear more and more. We've got now about an hour to go before we actually cover the sun completely.
You can see why people were suspicious about these things in the old days, can't you? It does look as if somebody's taking a great big bite out of it, as if it's an orange or an apple or something.
It really does look that. It really does.
Look at it now. You can really see it happening.
This great cosmic monster is now really beginning to bite in. This is really now, the tension's really becoming to mount.
Well, you're like a big kid at the moment, John. I mean, forgive me. But, I mean, as a scientist, is there anything you can learn from this stage of the whole business?
Well, of course, the sun is an exceptional object. Yes, it's an ordinary star, but it's the only star that isn't just a point of light. And this really is a fantastic coincidence that we are able to cover it up slowly and gradually learn more about the sun as we can cover it up. The real insights, though, I'm sorry, you've got to be a little bit more patient. You've got to wait until the sun disappears completely before you begin to see the really exciting parts.
So it's going to take, what, another hour or so to eat it all up?
An hour or so before the dragon has finished having his breakfast.
OK, well, at this point, people will be wanting to try and photograph this if they ever get a glimpse of it through the cloud, so we better get some advice from Francisco.
Well, it's great to see those pictures because it's just started spitting with rain. As I said, it will now take another hour or so for the moon's disk to slide slowly across the sun to reach the maximum totality. And for people who can see the sun, there are various ways of following the progress of the eclipse. As Mark was saying, projecting through a pinhole or using a mirror gives a good image. And there are other things too, aren't there, Francisco?
Yes, of course, you can use your solar viewers as well. You can get something from the kitchen like this, which has a lot of pinholes. and then you can project this on the floor on a piece of card, and you can get a multiple image of the eclipse on the floor. That's a very interesting thing to do.
Which must love it.
Yeah.
And what about photography? Because we've all been told don't look up through your cameras and take photos.
Well,
Look at the state of this. What do you do?
what I have here is a series of 3 video cameras and a telescope, all of them protected with a filter, and the filter has to come in front of the lens of the camera. Then everything is completely safe. We have special filters in front of the cameras and the telescopes, ready to be removed during totality, because during totality you don't need the filter. You just remove the filter, and during totality from where we are, we can film without any filter at all, and we can look in fact at the eclipse without any filters at all during those 2 precious minutes of totality.
So how many cameras do you have set up there? You've got 4 there.
I have 3 cameras here and a telescope, and here we have another telescope which is looking at the mirror, and it also has a safety filter in front of it.
Right.
Also ready to be removed anytime.
Now yesterday there was no tearing you away from this equipment, was there? What were
That's
you
right.
up to?
We were just setting up the alignment. We were setting up the focus of the camera. It has to be focused very, very precisely to get very sharp images, and all that is set and ready to go.
And you were having almost a rehearsal, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. That's
It was
right.
incredible. And this is the end result of what you've done before.
Well, we have a few pictures here of, for example, what we can see during totality, which is, this is the limb of the moon here, and very close up we can see prominences, solar prominences, pink flames of gas.
Beautiful pictures. Francisco, I'm going to stop you there, but hopefully we'll look at some more of those later. Let's hope it works as smoothly today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure it will. Right, Alderney is the last place in the United Kingdom and the Channel Islands that the eclipse reaches. Jamie Thixton's there. Jamie, any break in the clouds where you are?
It's not raining, is it?
Exactly, Michael. At the moment, I've actually just trying to been working. I think you in Cornwall are about 160 miles away from where we are. Now, if the shadow is travelling at around 2,000 miles an hour, that means it should be arriving here in about soonish. I'm not even going to try and work out that calculation, but I do know a man who can. Dr. Chris Riley, BBC top astronomer. Chris, thanks for joining us.
That's okay, Jamie.
Today. Now, it's left Cornwall. Am I right in thinking, or it's on its way here?
It's on its way here. It is, as you say, about 160 miles away in that direction, travelling at 2,000 miles an hour. It should take, according to my calculations, about 5 minutes to reach us here. At 9:59, we should start to see that first little bite out of the sun at about 1 o'clock on the clock face.
Right. So we should be getting something now. I mean, we're what, 3 minutes past 10 now.
We are. Let's just see if we
se-
can have a quick look. I know
Right.
it's cloudy here, but just have a quick look through the clouds and just see if you can see anything, Jamie.
Chris, I'm not seeing much.
No, I mean, you can, with the eye of faith, see the edge of the sun through that, but it's breaking through. It's really touch and go here, you know. I don't think we're going to see anything in the next few minutes, but
Right.
first contact has arrived in Alderney.
Right, I'm trusting you on that, because we're seeing very little here. Sadly, the cloud is affecting us in the same way it's affecting you, but let's go back to Cornwall.
Thanks very much indeed, Jamie, and we'll get back to you later. Well, if you've just joined us, welcome to Marazion in Cornwall, where we're keeping track of the last total eclipse before the next millennium. The moon has just started to eclipse the sun. All our cameras at the moment are shrouded in cloud. We're getting pictures from an RAF Hercules, but because that's going back and forth and the camera's only pointing out of one side of it, it's got to turn round. So it's just turning round to reposition so we can get another shot of the sun and the eclipse in just a few moments' time. In the meantime, Philippa.
Thank you very much. It's pouring with rain. And over at the Radio 1 Club, they're all praying for a bit of blue sky as well to float past the sun, so at least we can get a partial view of the eclipse. Emma B's there. Hi, Emma.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Well, wet. But is it raining with you?
It's just starting to drizzle a little bit, I think. But hey, we've got our cagoule, so it's fine. We'll be fine.
What's the atmosphere like? People are being very brave.
Well, yeah, everybody is. I mean, everybody's usually very good on a roadshow anyway, regardless of the rain. But I think particularly because of today and the events of today, it's not going to make any difference. We were worried, you know, because of the empty roads, that there wouldn't be much of a crowd here. But I think, as you can see, it's absolutely heaving, and of course everybody very excited. Suede are flying in on by helicopter, very, very showbiz. Pet Shop Boys are going to be here doing an exclusive track just for the roadshow.
Fantastic.
So regardless of the rain, we will soldier on.
Thank you very much, Emma B.
Okay.
We'll be back to them later. And for most people, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But here's someone for whom this will be number 2. Bertha, sorry to drag you out in the pouring rain. We've got a brolly over there. Do you want to... Let's put it over you, Bertha. Show some respect here. Oh, dear. When was the last time? How old were you when you saw it?
17.
You were 17.
Yes.
And what do you remember? Do you remember it vividly?
Of course I do. My eclipse started the night before. We had to get pieces of glass and smoke them with a candle. There was nothing else to do. And
Was it, well, I have to ask, because you've done it all before, was it ever as cloudy as this?
No. It was dull, but the sun came out. The sun was there.
And what were your feelings as you saw the eclipse?
Oh, just apprehensive of whatever was going to happen. I hadn't a clue. And there was me and all my pals, I should think about 8 or 10 pals. We all got up at 5 o'clock that morning and made our way to where I lived. The railway that was back, and there was a high wall. And we all climbed up onto the top of this wall and sat there holding arms. And minute by minute, the sun, the eclipse had started then. And minute by minute it was going darker, darker, darker. And then when it was absolutely covered, there's like a glorious, like a crown of diamonds just flashes down, and it's beautiful.
Well, we have to live on your memories, I think, today. Because
Yes.
it's not looking very good here, is it,
No,
Michael?
it's very wet.
Glad you're keeping her under that umbrella. We don't have to live on our memories. We've got our Hercules pictures back. Look. John Parkinson, we're about, 9-10 minutes into it?
9.5 minutes in.
Good chunk out of it now, look.
Oh yes, it's really going to happen now, and we seem to have the same weather outside that they had in 1927 for that eclipse.
It was like that.
It was exactly like this.
Now tell me, these people out on the beach, actually getting wet out on the beach, how long are they going to have to wait for another eclipse?
To see a total eclipse in Britain, in fact, very close to here, these good folk are going to have to wait until the 29th of September in the year 2090.
So not much chance for you then, no?
Or you, Michael. But if you do...
But there are other parts of the world where you will be able to see an eclipse here?
Yes, indeed. We haven't got a total eclipse next year, but in the year 2001, on the 21st of June, head off to the southern part of Africa, an area you know very well, places like Angola and Zambia, Zimbabwe and so on. And if you miss that one, then you've got 18 months to wait in virtually the same area into December 2002, and that one trips then across the Indian Ocean
But
to
as far
South
as this
Australia.
one's concerned, we've got another 90 years to wait, eh?
Yeah, yes.
Well, there it is. Now, this isn't the first live television broadcast of a total eclipse. That was back in 1961, the first live television pictures. It was only ever going to be partial in this country, but the new wonder of Eurovision promised to bring pictures of the total eclipse visible in France, Italy, and finally in Yugoslavia. Reporting from there then was Patrick Moore, an up-and-coming broadcaster who'd become a veteran eclipse chaser on behalf of the television viewer. The programme started in Britain. It was introduced by another familiar face, unusually solemn, and then quite young.
Good morning. We've opened up the service so much earlier than usual today because you're about to see something that has never been seen live on a television screen before.
In tracking the eclipse live across Europe, the programme began in the gloom on Britain's south coast.
We had an absolutely magnificent dawn. The sun rose almost like an atomic bomb over the horizon out there, but today it's grey and cloudy, and I think the chance of seeing anything at all is negligible. Anyway, there's nothing at the moment.
Well, it's a marvelous night for...
But even in 1961, pictures could be radioed back from an aircraft to show British viewers what they were missing. The total eclipse in that year missed the UK, passing over southern Europe. There were live pictures from an observatory in France. There were more cameras in Florence, the Italian city under the shadow, from where it moved on to Yugoslavia, where an eager young commentator was ready to report on the event if the weather would let him.
Hello from Yugoslavia. This is Patrick Moore talking to you from what must be one of the most desolate spots in Europe. And we're having a most exciting time here. We're in a cloud at the moment, right on the top of this mountain. The mist is swirling to and fro up there. The presence of the sun is brightening and fading, and I don't know whether we're going to see the corona or not. Oh, roll away, mist. Come on, roll away. I can see it now. The eclipse sun is visible in the sky. I'm hoping we're going to get our cameras onto it before it goes. No, there it goes again.
But then, at the last minute, Patrick's patience was rewarded.
The can just about see the edge of the sun now. Yes, there is the corona, and you can see it beautifully. Well, I've never seen a better sight than this in my life. And watch for the diamond ring effect as the sun reappears from behind the shielding body of the moon. And the light is coming back to the valley. The sun's back with us, even if it is, well, mainly above the mist. Oh, well, that really was lucky.
7 years later, in 1968, Patrick trekked across Russia and joined an international team of astronomers to watch the total eclipse there. He even adopted the local dress codes. Then in 1973, the view of the eclipse was going to be at sea. Patrick joined a crowd of enthusiasts for a cruise to the southern Atlantic off the African coast. But being at sea brings its own headaches.
Obviously, one trouble is the fact that the boat's going to be swaying around. How will you cope with that?
We made a homemade device that is based on pivots, so it'll move in both directions, and therefore we can hold the sun through our cameras all the time.
All sorts of gadgets and techniques were being tried to get stable pictures.
It looked to me as if you were balancing the camera on your teeth.
No, strictly speaking, it was on my nose, quite hard on my nose, like this.
Within a few seconds from daylight, the whole ship was plunged into darkness. And there's the corona, and there's a brilliant prominence to the side of the sun.
The same eclipse was chased for the first time by Concorde, following the moon's shadow at more than twice the speed of sound. The lucky astronomers on board witnessed a total eclipse lasting 72 minutes. And just last year, in February, Patrick took to the seas again, this time chasing an eclipse visible in the Caribbean.
First contact. You can just see the edge of the moon starting to creep onto the solar disk at about 4 o'clock in the clock face.
Can I just have one moment dance with you, my love?
So, Patrick, does it all come flooding back?
It does indeed. I think I remember most, you know, my first eclipse in 1954. I didn't really know quite what to expect, and it was far more marvellous than I thought it would be. And I think the last one, too, in 1998, what we did from the Caribbean, did a complete Sky at Night programme about that, and that was a marvellous eclipse.
But which of these eclipses has been your favourite, if you can make a judgment between them?
I think, really, I'm bound to say the last one, which is off in the Caribbean, because the conditions were ideal, an idyllic setting, and a perfect view, and a lovely corona. So we did a whole programme about that. We'll do a Sky at Night programme about this one next Sunday, hoping we see it from down here. Otherwise I have to rely on the aeroplane.
But no rum punches down in Falmouth. What's the weather like? I have to tell you, it's been bucketing down with rain up here.
It's not very good here. Totally overcast at the present moment, and I'm not very hopeful, but never give up. I remember once, down in the Philippines, it cleared 30 seconds before totality, and I got a good picture, so, well, hoping it'll happen again. At the moment, doesn't look promising, but don't give up. We may be lucky yet, one never knows. And of course, if it's clear with you, you'll see it about 30 seconds before we do. We're 30 seconds behind you.
Let's hope those wretched clouds, as you put it, will pass.
I hope so.
Patrick, thanks very much indeed. John Parkinson, Patrick there was saying it'll take 30 seconds to get from here to there. The speed of this eclipse is one of the most fascinating things about it, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Let me try and illustrate by having an artificial sun up here, and I've got a moon on the end of a stick, and you can see that the light from the sun casts a shadow of the moon onto the earth, and this shadow then, because of the motion of the moon, gets dragged across in this sort of way, and we can see it heading towards Britain in this way. Let's have a look at this in a little bit more detail.
Well, the path of the eclipse as it passes the...
Here's the track of the eclipse. You can see the shadow of the eclipse now coming across Europe. We're making the total zone trail a little red line so we can see where it's going.
That's the total eclipse line.
That's right. And now if we look in a little bit more detail, here's the shadow passing over the Channel, over France, into Germany, Austria, still heading steadily westwards. Here we are in Romania, where we get the longest eclipse. The track's never more than about 60 miles wide. Then into the Middle East, Iraq, Iran, heading still steadily eastwards, getting late in the afternoon, speeding up as it goes over India, just makes it to the Bay of Bengal by sunset.
It's interesting, how fast does it go, one thing, and second thing, why does it seem to speed up and slow down?
When it's in the middle of its track, as we saw in Romania, it's travelling about 1,500 miles an hour, but because the Earth is curved and the shadow is sweeping across it, then it's obviously travelling over the ground faster around sunrise and around at sunset. So it speeds up there to 2,000 or more miles an hour.
So if you were travelling in an aircraft, in Concorde for instance, could you, I mean, how long could you catch up with it?
Yes, Concorde 001 in 1973 tracked the eclipse that went over the Sahara Desert, and it flew at something like 70,000 feet, and it managed to keep in that zone of totality for over an hour, and that was the longest eclipse that anyone has ever seen.
John, thanks very much indeed. Out in the rain, Philippa?
I was in my bikini yesterday. Now, it was estimated that around 300 million people would see this total eclipse as it tracks across the Earth, and the chances are it won't come as a surprise to most of them. But imagine the effect on people thousands of years ago when they had no idea what was going on. First, they mostly wouldn't have had any warning. After all, although the history books tell us that some early mathematicians in Babylon and astronomers in China could predict them, most of the population wouldn't have had a clue. And second, they had no understanding of the way the solar system worked. So they couldn't have made any sense of why the life-giving sun, normally regular as clockwork, should so suddenly disappear. And in any one area, it only happened on average once every generation. So no wonder superstition and mystery grew up around eclipses. Jamie's been digging into history.
The Rollright Stones, one of many sacred sites built in Britain by the ancient pagans to focus the powerful forces of the sun and moon.
Glorious moon.
And nearly 3,000 years later, they're the place where pagans still come to celebrate their most important celestial event, the total eclipse of the sun.
Your light.
But it's not just mad dogs and Englishmen that go out in the eclipse day sun. Oh no. Ever since records began, there's been consternation in the constellations. And who can blame them? So how did ancient cultures work out who turned the lights out? After all, they didn't have Patrick Moore to explain it to them. Amazingly, the same story occurs again and again and again. And that is that the sun was devoured by this huge creature. And the nature of this beast depends on the country. In ancient China, you'd expect nothing less than a dragon. Across the water in Japan, they had a three-eyed monster called Oni. And in Romania, there was Varkalaki the vampire, who climbed fine threads to the sky to feast on the sun. But they didn't just come up with the same explanation as to why eclipses happen, but also the same way to get their sun back. Make a right old racket and fire your arrows into the sky. According to legend, in China in 2000 BC, this all went horribly wrong. The royal astronomers, Hai and Ho, got so drunk on plum wine on the day of the eclipse, they were incapable of making all the ritual noises, failed to dispatch the royal archers, and forgot to tell the emperor. After that eclipse, the lights went out permanently for Hai and Ho. In Africa, they were a lot more original. No monsters there. Oh, no. They honestly believed that the sun and moon were involved in an ongoing mud fight, and that the sun's disappearance meant that the moon had the upper hand. Back on Earth, solar eclipses meant disaster. Earthquakes, plague, don't milk your part, love, floods, even royal deaths. In 840 AD, King Louis of Bavaria died of shock during an eclipse, allegedly. But it wasn't all death and destruction. On the 28th of May, 584 BC, a 6-year war in the Middle East ended between the Medes and the Lydians, when a total eclipse of the sun was taken as a sign of peace. I said of peace! But what about the myths and legends surrounding this eclipse? Well, the good news is that the pagans believe this to be the dawning of the age of Aquarius, a time for rebirth and renewal. But the bad news is that others believe that Nostradamus predicted the 1999 eclipse to coincide with the end of the world.
Well, more on those myths and superstitions in a moment. But look, these are the pictures we're getting from the Hercules. What, about 23 minutes, John?
23 minutes, almost exactly.
23 minutes into the eclipse. I have to tell you, the Hercules is actually flying at 29,000 feet. We're originally planning for it only to be flying at 10,000 feet. The cloud levels, there are so many of these cloud levels, it's had to go to 29,000 feet, which is pretty high for a Hercules, to get a clear shot of it. It's funny the way these eclipses seem to come in and bite in from different places, John.
Yes, that's just the geometry of where you happen to be relative to the centre line of the track.
And, as you would say, entirely predictable, I'm sure.
Yes, even if you're flying a Hercules, it's still entirely predictable.
But getting back to those myths and superstitions, people have believed these strange things about eclipses until quite recently, haven't they? But it goes back a long way.
It goes back ever such a long way, and we've got a very rich tapestry of historical images and so on, of how people managed to convey to us over the centuries.
Well, here's one here, John. Where's this from? Looks like it's a dragon, presumably.
This looks like a Chinese dragon who's eating the sun, and there you can see it in the middle of his stomach.
This one's from Scandinavia, isn't it? Now, they reckon it's a wolf, but it looks to me like a lion, or maybe even a bear. But the same idea, isn't it, John?
Absolutely, of things eating the sun. In Indonesia, a few years ago, during an eclipse there, I collected this wonderful legend.
You collect a lot of this stuff, don't you?
I do, it's absolutely fascinating.
Okay, this is the Indonesian mob here, is
yes, and here's a wicked giant who chases the sun and the moon around the sky and eats them and they disappear. Here's a wonderful Chinese dragon. I think he's a very friendly dragon who's
the one in here?
just about to eat the sun.
I don't think any dragons are friendly.
But just going back to our Indonesian legend, this was immortalised on a can of beer a few years ago.
Oh, you can see the dragon.
And there
you can see
he's
eating the
just
sun.
about to eat the sun.
And it's full.
I still haven't plucked up courage to drink it. No, maybe we'll need it today, though.
Actually, throughout history, there's been lots of examples, haven't there, John, of how eclipses were linked in some way to either religion or royalty, the two of the most important influences on any culture. We've got some images here that show that link. This is said to be an Egyptian image of an eclipse. The sun was very important to the Egyptians, a culture that particularly worshipped the sun. They did, didn't they, John?
Yes, 2,000 or 3,000 years at BC, the Egyptians had a positive glut of eclipses with an average of one about every 75 years. And then, no wonder they thought the sun was important to them. Later on, the Mexicans worshipped the sun, built phenomenal pyramids. The pyramid at Teotihuacan in Mexico, Francisco's homeland, is a wonderful example of that.
John, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's have a look at some of our cameras, most of them shrouded by... now here's a picture we can get from Newcastle. Now, not under the path of totality, John, but not a bad shot, is it?
No, that's absolutely
They'll never
wonderful.
get a full eclipse in Newcastle.
Well, Newcastle just missed out on totality for 1927, but at least they're going to get the partial one here. Here we're seeing a different angle, and here's the moon coming across. It will pass just a little bit below the centre, if you see what I mean, and so they will see an arc left behind at the top.
Can you remember, encyclopedic knowledge, exactly what percentage of totality they get in Newcastle?
In Newcastle, off the top of my head, about 86 or 87% of the sun will disappear.
Now, these recent eclipses, when they've had these kind of images, have actually created some real fear in some of the more remote third world countries, haven't they?
Well, I wouldn't class India actually as remote, but
North Third World, really.
North Third World, really. But they felt that their temples in the 95 eclipse had been somehow contaminated by the shadow of the moon going across them. And afterwards they went and washed the outside of the temples to get all the remnants of the shadow off. Then that eclipse carried on. In Vietnam, I remember the price of black chicken shot up because they were thought to be lucky.
Because look, we're getting a picture here from Alderney.
Oh,
and
right.
it shows you just how difficult it is. And if you really look hard, God, you've got to have a good television set here. It's just under there. You can just see it through the shrouds. There's a little corner of it there.
They've been going in Alderney for about 26 minutes, I think. Sorry, 22 minutes. Can't do maths spontaneously as well as I should be able to. But yes, let's hope that those clouds do thin down there as the morning goes on.
OK, let's get above those clouds, 29,000 feet. There's the Hercules. Now, how far are we away from totality?
Well, we've been going for
11 minutes.
Let me just do a little calculation here. We've got 37 minutes to go.
Now, that's the picture from the Hercules. That's the sun from 29,000 feet. But as far as we're concerned down here, we will actually be able to see a shadow racing towards us when totality pitches up on us, won't it?
45 minutes to go. Humble apologies.
Now,
We'll
tell
see
us
it,
about the shadow.
We'll see it darken towards the west. It's actually very difficult to see the shadow against the ground or whatever because there aren't any sharp edges. But it will get dark from the west and it will get here very dark. It'll get even darker because it's cloudy and raining now, yes.
So what sort of sense... that's how high that Hercules is. They don't normally fly that high at all. What will they see from up there when the shadow comes?
What they will actually be able to see from the plane, if they are sufficiently high, is a sort of greyish, gloomy cloud underneath them because they are in the zone of totality. And as they look particularly to the north and south, they'll actually be able to see outside of the zone of totality. And so to the north and south, they will always be able to see quite a bright horizon.
John, thanks for the moment. Out to bedraggled Philippa. Or as bedraggled as Philippa ever gets.
Well, there might be 1.1 million people here in Cornwall to enjoy the eclipse, but it's a supernatural experience as well as what you can see, isn't it, Francisco?
It is. A total solar eclipse is a unique experience. You know, the whole thing gets inside the shadow of the moon, which is traveling above us, and the whole nature. People shout, people go mad. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. We will see that in 3/4 of an hour just here. All these people are going to shout, despite the clouds. Even the clouds are going to make the eclipse even darker. It's going to be a fantastic experience.
And it's not just us that's affected, it's the whole of nature, isn't it?
The whole of nature, especially birds. You know, I was expecting to see seagulls here and see what they do. I'm sure they will go back to the cliffs, back to the nest and all these things. It is amazing. I have seen so many eclipses. I have seen birds always getting disturbed. They just fly erratically. They don't know what to do. Night comes in the middle of the day. A few minutes later, it's bright again. It's a fantastic thing to witness.
So how will the animals and birds be affected in the line of totality, you think? They're just going to be random?
Well, who knows? I mean, there are a lot of seabird colonies in that city here in Cornwall. We have all the cliffs with a lot of birds. And they will be flying, I think, in circles and then go back to the nests. And then suddenly it will be bright again and they will come out again. It will be very interesting to see.
You were telling me a great story about an egret that you once saw in India.
You want me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was in India, wasn't it?
Yes, in India we saw this white egret just flying. It was about 2 minutes before totality. This egret was flying in the blue sky. We didn't have any clouds there. And then I saw this egret. I was just dealing with my cameras and everything. And I said, oh, look at that. And he went this way and that way. And then just completely lost. And then I just carried on with my things because I got to do this. It was very interesting.
It didn't know what on earth it was doing, did it? Okay, well, we've got some special guests. Look, because we've brought them down to the beach because we want to see if there's any truth to the way these animals are going to react. So what we've got over here is some crickets, first of all, who are really not reacting at all so far, but they're meant to chirrup at dusk, so they may start chirruping for us. We've also got 6 chickens over here who are lovely. They normally live just up the road, but we've built them a very comfortable home here. We want to see if they react at all. 3 owls who you may have seen on our programme last night, our barn owl here, our lovely snowy owl here, and a tawny owl here, all British owls that normally snooze during the day and wake up and hunt during the night. So they may well have a reaction too. And we've got, come here, bring him over here, look, lovely chocolate Labrador, little selection of dogs down here because there have been stories about dogs howling at the eclipse in the past, so we're going to see if they have. Thank you very much for that, as if I wasn't wet enough. If they have any reaction at all. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, well, let's check up now on the progress of the partial eclipse. We're only in the partial eclipse stage now, with the penumbra coming across us. Let's take a look at some pictures from outside the zone of totality. This first one, I think, is from Bristol. Oh, hey, John, here we go.
Oh, right.
Now, that's Bristol, not too far north of us.
Yeah,
great picture.
Clouds drifting across.
Yeah.
Hope they're all enjoying the view there. Bristol's going to get about 97.5% of the sun covered, so very, very close.
So that's Bristol. There's a real irony here, isn't there? That the only place you can see it is outside the zone of totality.
This is what makes Eclipse work so much fun. It really does challenge
covering up
you.
a bit here, isn't it? But let's go back to Newcastle. Do you remember the one from Newcastle? It was a really clear shot.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. Stunning.
Well done, Newcastle.
Great to be in Newcastle. They're going to get only about, what, 80%, something like that?
Bit over. 80% line goes through Scotland, round about Dundee. So in Newcastle, they're going to get less of the sun visible. Probably about 13% left at maximum.
Smashing. Hercules at the moment, I have to tell you, is actually turning round to get back to do another run to point at the sun. So we'll be seeing that in a short while. And they show very clearly, you know, those pictures, these pictures do, and the Hercules, how the moon is gradually covering the sun. Anyway, look, there are crucial moments here, but it's mostly cloudy under the path of totality. In fact, almost entirely cloudy wherever we are. But, you know, the team down at RAF Lynham are going to be our absolute lifesavers. And this is how they set about this operation. The Hercules is a plane that's used to coping with everything from war zones to delivering food and medical supplies. But a few days ago, it was rehearsing for a mission that's very different, to bring what could be the only pictures of the eclipse over Britain. The layout of the aircraft makes it perfect as an airborne camera platform, and the man in the hot seat is pilot Bert Whedon.
At the back of the Hercules, we've got the cargo ramp and door used for loading and unloading the aircraft. We won't be able to get a good shot of the sun from these doors because of the elevation of the sun, but we will be able to see the approaching shadow area. Moving further down the aeroplane, we have the side doors for paratroop dispatch. By opening one of these, we'll be able to get a side aspect of the sun during the time of the eclipse.
Our team of engineers descended on RAF Lynham for the test flight, but they have to overcome a big problem. The vibration of the plane could ruin the close-up pictures of the sun. So on trial is a gyro-stabilized camera normally used to follow horse races. The test run also gives Bert Whedon the chance to check out his flight plan.
The outside broadcast of the BBC is based in Marazion, which is about here. The centre line of the eclipse is the bottom line that you can see. The BBC ground station that will receive our signal is just on the centre line, just about here. We've chosen to fly a track which is 90 degrees to the sun. The sun on the day will be in this sort of direction. We're going to fly on a northeasterly track. We've chosen so that we can see the sun out of a side door and film it at the same time.
If you have an emergency whilst we're airborne or on the runway, you'll hear a set of rings on the alarm bells. Our life jackets are situated all around the aircraft in the orange storages above your head.
After safety checks, it's time to take off. Today's flight time is planned so the sun will be in the same position as during the eclipse. En route to Cornwall, there's a chance to check the equipment one more time and to fit the solar filters to the cameras. At 8,000 feet above the cloud, there's a clear view of the sun. The gyro camera is working, but one minor hitch. Sitting away from the sun, it's hard to find it in the sky. With a little practice, it's there, and the picture's stable enough to zoom right in to see the sunspots. If cloud forces Bert to fly higher on the day, they won't be able to open the doors, so there has to be an alternative. Up in the cockpit, they try a handheld camera. It gives a sharp image, but the vibration of the plane means they can't zoom in quite as close. After an hour of flying, it's time to head back to RAF Lynham. The flight's gone well, but there's still more to do.
We've proved the principle that you know, we will get something. It's just now we'll work out how it all goes. We've got the pictures in here now. We've just got to get them down to the ground. It's another story altogether.
does put a certain amount of pressure on us to get the job done and be in the right place at the right time, which is our main worry. But still a big sense of excitement that we're actually going to be flying during the night, during the day, which is quite a novel experience. And personally, I find it quite exciting as I'm a Cornishman, and I'll be flying over effectively my home turf. So it puts another angle on it for me, another aspect on it.
So if you've just joined us, we're watching the progress of the first solar eclipse visible in Britain for 72 years. This, incidentally, I don't know if you can see it, is the shot we got from Alderney. So the sky's not entirely blank over Alderney. Big chunk out of there, John.
Yes, yes. We've been going in Alderney for just over half an hour now. So we've got just a little bit longer to go than that again before we get to the really exciting bits.
Almost the only bit in the southwest where you can actually see it, and they'll get totality there, won't they?
They will certainly get totality there. Let's hope the clouds keep away for them.
But at the moment, parts of the country can now see a partial eclipse. And there's a sense of anticipation all over the southwest where the moon's shadow, which will make the eclipse total, of course, is due, what, in about 30, 38, 40 minutes. Actually, that's the picture a lot of people in the country are seeing in London. A better picture than down here.
Wow, yes.
That's not bad, is it?
That's pretty good.
We should have stayed,
stayed
up there. Oh, that's just the cloud there.
That's just the cloud. The limb of the moon is round here.
Okay. At that time, incidentally, when this shadow comes, the people who've seen it before tell me, anyway, the place will go completely dark. It still seems hard to believe all this, but it's all totally predictable, isn't it, from a science point of view?
Absolutely. It's all down to some basic, simple physics, really.
There's no such thing as simple physics, John. Try and explain it to us with this rather delightful... This is called an orrery, isn't it?
This is called an orrery, and here it's a wonderful mechanical model. And here we've got the sun in the middle of everything, of course, and here's the Earth, and here's the moon. And if we make the moon move in between the sun and the Earth, here you can see it revolving around, they line up perfectly, and because of the relative sizes, then the moon appears to have the same sizes in the sky as the sun, and so we get the total shadow of the moon projected by the sun onto the Earth, and we get a total eclipse there. The moon carries on around here, and when it gets around to the other side of the moon, then we have
that's your lunar eclipse.
That's right. That's when we have an opportunity.
All that's understandable. What isn't, very briefly, because we've got to move on, what isn't is how you can predict it right to the last second.
We can predict it because we have many, many centuries of observations, and we understand the orbits very precisely. And the moon sometimes comes through at a slightly higher position here, and then the shadow misses the Earth completely, and we don't get a total eclipse then. We only get these total perfect lineups on average about every 18 months or so.
It's a lovely toy, isn't it? John, for the time being, thanks very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Look at that beautiful picture of the eclipse happening so far. And because the main source of energy on Earth is suddenly switched off, that causes really unusual effects in the air around us. And the person who knows about them is Helen Young. First though, Helen, what are the chances for 30 minutes time?
I'm very sorry, but I did bring you a present. I thought you might need one of these as well. There you go. Anyway, I've got my crystal ball here. Now this one normally measures amounts of sunshine, but today I'm going to rub it in the hope that we may just see something, but I don't think it's very likely at the moment, I'm afraid. But as you said, we have got experiments going on, and it doesn't matter that it's cloudy, it doesn't matter that it's wet, because the temperature will still drop. As the moon goes across the sun, it will get colder. So this is a temperature sensor here, out in the open. We've also got one inside here that will measure the air temperature. This is how we measure it in the Met Office.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will give us a very accurate temperature reading. Up on top, we've also got an anemometer which will measure the wind speed and also the wind direction. Now, in the next 10 minutes or so, we may see a gust of wind picking up, with something that happens sometimes with eclipses. So the wind could get stronger as well as the rain, unfortunately.
Right. So we'll have gusty winds.
But
Good.
over here, we've also got some school children actually doing similar sort of experiments.
Right.
So they've got their own little Stevenson screen here, which is where we put the temperature sensors inside.
Okay.
Also got some more temperature sensors here.
Okay.
But perhaps more
Good luck with that,
excitingly
guys.
is the radio tests that are happening here.
Hello, can I borrow your microphone? What's your name?
Megan.
You're Megan, and you're?
Rosie.
Now, what are you doing with this radio? You're not just listening to music, are you?
No.
You haven't got it tuned into Radio 1, have you?
No.
So what are you doing?
Listening for Spanish radio waves.
You're listening for... Why is that?
Because the Spanish radio are going to say hello Cornwall in English, and because of the changes in the atmosphere, during totality you will hear the Spanish radio very clearly, but in daytime normally you don't hear anything but static.
Well, fantastic. That sounds fascinating. You see, we've got real live science going on this beach. Thank you very much, girls, and you will wave at me, won't you, if you hear the Spanish radio? Fantastic. Michael?
Well, if you've just joined us, we're following the process and the progress of the eclipse as it passes over cloud cover as it happens all over the southwest, pretty much all over the southwest, except for, this is Alderney, I think, John.
Alderney, great.
It's a really super shot there, but all over the rest of the southwest, as far as the UK is concerned, the path of totality, we're pretty well covered by cloud. But do you think they're going to get a good shot there?
It's looking very encouraging. We do tend to get some thinning of the cloud as totality approaches, as we cool down the Earth as if it was an artificial sunset in the middle of the morning. And let's hope that some of these clouds will actually thin. I'm always very hopeful.
But Alderney looks like the best bet, but it still looks pretty iffy, doesn't it?
Yes, when you normally chew your fingernails down for eclipses, and we've been in worse situations than this before. So has Patrick. We have had between us several miraculous or semi-miraculous clearances, so I'm sure we're both still very, very optimistic.
I think the Hercules has now turned round, so its stabilised camera is actually put on, and we get a perfect picture there.
Yes.
Now explain to us, I mean, again, why it's all very black around. I mean, these aren't the sort of colours you'd be seeing if you were looking at it normally.
Well, they've got a hefty filter. I mean, the sun is a very powerful object, as we've been really stressing that it can damage your eyes very easily. So here we're looking through quite a thick filter, which does give it this beautiful, warm, yellowish tint, and then we can't actually see the moon because the moon is between us, and the moon normally reflects light off it for us to see it, and that's why we can't actually see it.
This Hercules is saving our lives, isn't it, really? Old Captain Bert Whedon. You are pretty much the... there he is, the captain, Bert Whedon. Actually, you and I are old enough to remember a different Bert Whedon who played a guitar.
That's absolutely right, but... oh, no, it isn't the same
Well, he's really
one.
saving our lives this morning.
I think we're going to have to buy him a drink
Well,
afterwards.
let's look at the picture again, just to take another shot at it. It's really good. Is this the most exciting bit for you, or is it the actual approach to totality?
I think it's in the last few moments before totality. As we're going to see here, whatever happens with the clouds and so on, it is still going to get very, very dark. We're still going to get some very curious lighting on the horizon, and we're going to get this incredible gloom. That's the best way that I can describe it. And it really does seem to fall from the sky.
Okay, John, well, that other astronomer, Patrick Moore, is what, about 20 miles to the west of us in Falmouth, under an umbrella. Those wretched clouds not only have not gone away, Patrick, they're actually, well...
I'm afraid they are. It's just starting to rain. The rain is starting to fall down, therefore we had to cover our cameras up and raise dollies. I must say that helicopter flying overhead, making an awful racket, doesn't help either. So, on the whole, at the moment, I feel it's really rather a gloomy scene, but don't give up yet, one never knows. It could still clear, and there's a slight lightening of the sky over there, so let's only hope.
Or as an astronomer, Patrick, even in these gloomy conditions. Patrick, can you hear me?
Yes, just about.
Oh, right. What will you be looking for, Patrick, even with these rather gloomy conditions?
I think several things. We've got the expenditure here. Of course, the temperature drop that Peters is doing, and also any changes in the wind velocity. I'm not a great believer in eclipse winds. I never felt them myself, but there could be some effect there. And of course, the drop in light level will be very marked, and the drop in temperature as well. So we'll get that at least. We'll know when totality happens, even though sadly from here we can't see it. But of course, at least we do have our aircraft pictures, and that's saving the day for us.
Which, if you can still hear me, Patrick, which is the most exciting moment for you?
Given the clear sky, that moment when the sun disappears, the diamond ring comes in, and the corona flashes out and covers the sky, that is the most dramatic moment, and you realize then you're seeing the sun as it actually is. At the moment, of course, only partially hidden, but when totality comes, if we see it, that is the moment. Because before we get down here, I fear, is the darkness.
Patrick, thanks very much indeed. Hoping you don't get too much rain on that monocle. Rain on that monocle.
Photographing us.
What? What was that, Patrick? I didn't catch you.
The helicopter overhead, and I think they're taking pictures of us. I'm not sure about that.
All right, we'll leave you to the helicopter. There's the helicopter again, John. It's helicopter. There's the Hercules.
Yes, and we're beginning to see over to the west now, even out of our window. We can begin to see the clouds darkening over there to the west. That's the shadow, the Sirius shadow now, on its way towards us.
There we are. There's a shot actually from the mount over there behind us. Can we see from inland? The shadow's actually coming from over here to the west, isn't it?
That's right. It's coming from over this side, after it's passed over the Isles of Scilly, then the total shadow will come just north of Land's End and then sweep across us before we hand it over to Patrick to have his fun with.
So how much of this are we going to see, even though there's no cloud, in terms of a shadow?
The consolation is going to be that it's going to get even darker. We'll be able to see, well, at St Michael's Mount, I think we will have very great difficulty in actually seeing it from here.
Really?
I'm hoping it's going to be that dark.
And if there were no clouds, would we be able to see stars and things at this stage, or when?
Stars are visible, but to be quite honest, if it was perfectly cloudy, there's no point in wasting time looking for stars. Just come back in 6 months' time and you'll see all those stars up there. But we should be able to see Venus off to the left-hand side of the sun as we look at it, and Mercury down towards the bottom right. And we'll have to look at the Hercules film later on to see if they can actually see Venus. They may actually be able to report it to us visually.
In terms of timing, how are we doing now?
In terms of timing, we've got about 24 minutes to go. 24 minutes and a few seconds.
Minutes. Your clock's a bit more accurate than me. Okay, 24 minutes to go. Philippa.
Well, thank goodness for the RAF Hercules, that's all I can say. Still, the atmosphere is fantastic down here on the ground. And I want to catch up with the action at Radio 1 Club up the road because Emma B's been there most of the morning. Hi Emma, can you hear me? Hello, she's running away.
Hello, we're here, yes, in the back of our very showbiz Winnebago at the Radio 1 Roadshow, joined by Chris and Neil, Pet Shop Boys. Hello.
Hello.
It's very exciting. We're just watching the eclipse on the little monitor that we've got. It's genuinely.
It is, even though you can't see anything here apart from cloud. Watching it on the monitor is very exciting.
Now, it is a very exciting day. Obviously, the Radio 1 Roadshow, but there's a particularly exciting reason why you're here today. It's because we're going to get the exclusive play. You're going to do the first performance of the song that you've written, especially for Eclipse.
Yeah, Radio 1 asked us to write something to be played during the eclipse, and so we've written a piece of music that has a short intro, and then the music changes, and for 2 minutes 2 seconds you get a special piece of music for the totality, and then as the moon moves away from the sun, the music gets faster and changes. Do you want to hear a bit of it?
Let's hear a little bit of it now.
Press that. Very cosmic.
Very cosmic. Very cosmic. Is that all we're getting?
That's all you're getting, I'm afraid.
Okay, all right then. So if you want to hear more of that, a piece of music, you're going to have to tune in to Radio 1 about 11:10, and that's going to play all the way through the eclipse.
All the way through.
How did you do that? Did you time yourself for 2.5 minutes so that you knew when it was going to get slower or faster or?
Yeah, we knew exactly how long to make the music. We just tapped into some cosmic rays that were coming from the universe and projected it onto tape.
Okay, right. Now, apart from this record as well, you've got a new record and a new album coming out.
Yeah, we've got a new single in September called New York City Boy, and then the album Nightlife comes out in October, and then we're actually doing a world tour, and so we're going to be playing in Britain, touring in Britain for the first time for 8 years in December.
Of course, exactly.
And we're doing a big show with a fabulous set and the whole thing. It's going to be great.
That's something to look forward to, definitely.
Well, we're looking forward to it anyway, yeah.
Exactly. So, Radio 1 Roadshows, it's raining today.
Yeah, I've done it always.
I know. How likely was that to happen, though, on the day of the eclipse when we're supposed to be seeing everything? It just absolutely chucks it down with rain.
It's an English summer day.
Isn't it just?
I know, it reminds you of nice summer holidays in England.
Exactly, but I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
I think it's going to be very exciting anyway.
The crowd are well up
I don't know
for
why
it.
it's not dark yet, though. I can't work it out.
It's because we've got lights on.
No.
That's it from us, the Pet Shop Boys.
Thank you, Radio 1. Dr. Mark Porter, I mean, in those places where they can see the sun, there's less and less of the sun to see, so is it getting safer to look at?
No, basically. I mean, the sun is so intense. I think people don't really understand the suns that are involved here. If you can see any fraction of the sun, it's enough to potentially damage your eyes. I mean, these solar viewers that everyone's talking about actually reduce the amount of transmitted light, in some cases, to around 1/1,000,000th of the light intensity, and that just sort of puts it into perspective, really.
But, I mean, there's absolutely no danger here, I would have...
Well, unfortunately, if we could see the sun full stop, it would be very nice.
Your eye sockets waterlogged if you look that way. But in some places there must be, you know, thinnish cloud, which must tempt people to look at it. What's the state of play
Those
there?
reduce the intensity quite a lot, but still, if in doubt, you should be using these. As you can see from our pictures, you can see the cloud going across. When from Newcastle we saw there were some of the pictures of the cloud going across. Please always use the viewers or indirect viewing. And the most important thing to remember, the only time to look at it that is actually safe is totality.
Mark Porter, thanks very much indeed. Well, the one place that we can actually see the sun in the southwest is in Alderney, and Jamie Theakston's there. Jamie.
Jamie. Yes, thanks very much, Michael. The weather does have a tendency to ruin big occasions in this country. It may help our cricketers, but it's not helping us much today. But we've got a pretty good view here in Alderney. Chris, explain to us exactly what's happening now.
Well, the cloud does seem to be breaking up into patches, and occasionally, just as has happened now, we're just getting a break in the clouds, and there's a cheer goes up from the crowds occasionally when they get to see something. So things are looking up.
Now we've got there must be what 250 astronomers here today. They obviously know something that we don't. They've come here. I mean, this obviously is a good place to come, right?
Well, you'd hope if they know where to come, then that's the right place. It's a bit of a lottery, though. About a year or so ago, when we were planning where to go, everybody was buying the same kind of lottery ticket. The weather's a real uncertainty, and I hope we've got a winning one today. It looks like it might just be so.
Right. Now, it's quite interesting that it seems it's almost mirroring what happened in Giggleswick the last time we had an eclipse. I mean, it was much the same then, right?
That's right. There were clouds and rain for a couple of weeks beforehand, and the Astronomer Royal at the time, Frank Dyson, was tearing his hair out, thinking that he was going to be scuppered. Now, we've had clouds here up until the moment that the eclipse has started. We might just get that crucial break just after 11 o'clock that allows us to see it. The Astronomer Royal, traditionally, as far as UK eclipses are concerned, is a good guy to hang out with if you want to see one. Now, I thought he was going to be here. I'm told he's over in Falmouth, so we might just be more lucky this year.
Right. Now, Patrick's got heavy cloud. There's heavy cloud also in Cornwall. We seem to have much thinner cloud. What will that mean that when we get totality, we'll get a complete darkness and they won't? How does that work?
You'll still get the total darkness. In fact, even with a cloudy sky like today, this kind of wall of darkness that's projected onto the top of the clouds will rush towards us in the most dramatic way in the next half an hour or so. So it will still be very spectacular here.
Right. Okay. Well, excitement building here in Alderney. The cloud's thinning. We're actually getting a pretty good view here, so we're all very eagerly anticipating totality. It should happen in about 20 minutes. Back to Cornwall.
Thank you very much, Jamie. It looks nicer there, but it is starting to get darker here, isn't it, Francisco?
Yes, we can see that the shadow of the moon is nearly here. It's only 20 minutes to go, but we can see a bit dark, and we can see a bit of blue patch sky there. It looks already dark.
Well, when the moon does finally sit exactly over the disk of the sun, it's then that we can see things that are totally invisible normally, hopefully, like the corona, the mass of gas that leaps from the sun's surface. Now, I gather early astronomers used to think that the corona was part of the moon.
That's right. Until last century, people realized that the corona is part of the external atmosphere of the sun, and since then, our knowledge of the sun has been growing and growing all the time. I have here a few pictures. This is the kind of landscape that we see during totality, and when we zoom into this area, well, we can see here planets like Venus and Jupiter in this eclipse that we saw in Bolivia some time ago.
So eclipses have been hugely important to astronomers then?
Very much so. And look at this. This picture is our picture from Bolivia, an eclipse in 1994. Here we see the structure of the solar corona very clearly. When we see this kind of shapes, we can identify magnetic poles of the sun here, like as if it was a giant magnet here with magnetic poles here, and the corona is flowing out of the sun in this direction. We learn a lot about how the sun is behaving, and in a way about how the stars are behaving.
But there are huge benefits to studying these kind of mysteries from the ground as well, aren't there?
There is. All these pictures are taken from the ground. This is with a more powerful telescope to look at the solar prominences. We may see some of them in a few minutes' time. If the sun is very active, we see these huge flames of gas, hydrogen and helium flying away from the sun in thousands of kilometers. I mean, the Earth will be a tiny little thing here compared at that scale.
anything in particular that you're hoping to learn from today?
Well, yes, what solar physicists are looking for is this kind of interaction between these flames and the solar corona, which looks white or bluish in this picture. The solar corona is very hot, 1 or 2 million degrees, and to the day we don't really know how and what is the mechanism to heat the corona to those very high temperatures. We know that magnetic fields are very important in this mechanism, and this eclipse will throw more light into this problem.
Because the important part of it is that we're all affected by the magnetic fields, am I right?
Oh yes, yes, the solar corona flows all the way from the sun to our Earth, and the Earth has its own magnetic fields, so the magnetic field of the sun and the magnetic field of the Earth are in communication constantly, and we get a lot of information and a lot of particles, a lot of material, a lot of radiation that is funneled by our magnetic fields, producing the aurora borealis, the aurora australis, all these beautiful effects of light in the sky, but also producing storms, producing like magnetic storms that disrupt electric lines, distribution of electric lines. They can knock out satellites and things like that.
We can see an image here of a solar flyby, we call it.
Well, these images are extremely important. They are taken from a satellite like SOHO, the Solar Heliospheric Observatory, and they look at the sun at all times. This is a computer graphic that is representing a kind of flyby on the solar atmosphere when we see sunspots down on the left and we see these enormous ejections of matter going away from the sun. This is a very highly magnification. It's just a simulation of what the sun will look like.
And today the value is what we're getting from studying it from the ground, which is obviously a lot less expensive than satellites.
It is less expensive. We can use more sophisticated equipment. We can look at the sun with very good computers, very fast computers, very good detectors, and that is complementary to the information that we get from the satellites.
Okay, well let's hope we learn a lot today. We're not too far away. It's getting much, much closer, isn't it, Michael?
I think it is, actually, Philippa. It feels as though it's gone suddenly darker over the last few moments, because totality is now only, what, 14 minutes away. Millions of people are looking skyward here in Cornwall and Devon, and elsewhere in the country, of course. And as the crowds began to gather around here in Marazion, lots of them around, it felt like a very special morning this morning. The clouds were threatening, but still the eclipse watchers streamed into town. Some had already braved a night at the seaside.
We slept on the beach, camped there till about 2 o'clock, came down at about 12, and then when the sea came right in, we came up to the car.
And why did you do that then?
Because the water came in and we got wet.
In the morning, chill queues developed at the Radio 1 Roadshow.
Oh, we got up at 4:30, the alarm went off. Insane.
By 7, most people were interested in breakfast. In the surrounding campsites, the smell of bacon wafting through the air. And as the day brightened, thousands more arrived, hoping the clouds and the jams would lift for that experience of a lifetime. And here they are, they're all around here, aren't they, John?
Yes, the
filling
crowd's
up on the
really
beach.
building up. Building up.
It's not my imagination, it really has got a lot darker, hasn't
It is getting considerably darker now, but notice how it's going. It's not like a normal sunset where you get those long shadows as the sun gets towards the horizon. Everything seems to lose its colour and its texture. It really is an incredibly eerie light that we're getting now.
And actually, I suppose to a sense it's more eerie because it's cloudy.
In fact it is, because we're not getting as much light coming down to the ground. It's actually getting darker quicker, and because of the way eyes work and so on, we're beginning to adapt in our eyes to what we're seeing around us. And that's what gives it this unearthly, ethereal glow. Well, as you see, you can't describe it. I'm hopeless at describing it.
Well, here we go. No, I mean, I feel the sense of eeriness too. This picture here is from Torbay, so at least there are a few breaks in the cloud over the southwest.
Oh, that's good.
And we're what?
Yes.
We're 11, just under 12 minutes now to totality. But that's Torbay, not too far away from us. So it feels really gloomy here. But obviously they can see it through the clouds.
Yes, and let's hope that we can see clouds round about, but some thin cloud you can actually see a remarkable corona through, so we're not giving up hope yet.
So what you're saying is that even though there might be what appears to be total cloud, there is such a strip of brightness when you finally get to the moment of total eclipse, that thin brightness of the corona, that it might shine through. You might be able to see it through, Craig.
If you've got thin cloud, then it's amazing what you can see through it. It saved us before. We've just got to hope that it isn't big, thick, lumpy clouds.
So, I mean, you've always seen the full Monty, haven't you, whenever you've been on one of these things?
Yes, I have. 7 times, and so far 7 successes for total eclipses.
And has the atmosphere been a lot different then? Because what's strange, actually, I've been, you know, while Philippa's been doing her stuff and everything, I've been looking at the people out here, and they've been a total sense of different atmosphere there. They were running around beforehand. Now there's very much a sense of just you know...
It's apprehension.
Yeah.
It's apprehension. You imagine if you didn't actually understand what was going on centuries ago, then you would really think that now you would detect something peculiar was up. We're actually beginning to see 1 or 2 seagulls going through a bit of evening ritual.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's now just a few moments past 11 o'clock, and the countdown is approaching, what, totality minus 10 minutes. Then we'll all be plunged into darkness. And I, at least, am ready to believe it. The sky is darkening, and on our pictures from the Hercules, we might be able to see the Venus and Mercury. Can we see the Hercules? It's just breaking up the picture from there. Oh, there it is. Yeah, starting to break up a bit. We'll try and get that a bit better. But we might be able to see Venus and Mercury. Venus we often see, don't we? Mercury's a bit of a rare sight, John.
Yes, we'll only see Mercury during totality, and if the sky is pretty good. Mercury is the innermost planet. Most people have never actually seen it, and this might be the one opportunity they get.
And Mark Porter, what's actually happening to our eyes in accustoming ourselves to the darkness?
They're fantastic pieces of kit, and they're adjusting to the gloom, and they'll be trying to make the most of whatever light's come in. There are 2 ways they do that. One is that they slightly alter the way they perceive the light at the back of the eye. There are some receptors that are better in the dark than others. And the other thing is they open up the shutter. The big iris in the front of the eye starts to open up to get as much light in as possible. We haven't got to the stage where that's happening yet, but it will when it gets dark.
I've been talking about the sense of different atmosphere, but is there a relationship, if you like, between the light we perceive and our mood?
Oh, very much so, but not in a sudden thing like this. But as we approach the shorter winter times, we get much more cases of depression, for instance.
Okay,
we feel better in sunlight.
Okay,
if there was any.
Okay, let's soak up a bit more of that atmosphere and go outside to the picture of the castle there, Mount St. Michael. And on the beach, Philippa.
I'm just having my first real glimmer of excitement because there's a distinct change now in the light, and as people are taking photos of each other and of us, their flashes are going off. There's a real change now, isn't there, Helen?
Definitely, definitely. It does seem to be much darker. It also feels much colder, doesn't it? I'm not sure if that's just because of the rain, but it does feel much colder. I've been roaming the crystal ball. It's still, I'm afraid, I think that's out the window today. Got my rain hat ready instead. But what I have been doing is looking or monitoring the weather right the way from 9 o'clock this morning. And I've been monitoring the temperature. You can see here, if we look at the red one, that's when we had that heavy shower and it dropped the temperature anyway. But you can now begin to see the temperature is gradually dropping away ever so slightly, only probably at the moment by about ½ a degree or so. But I think as we carry on towards totality, I think it will drop maybe by 1 degree or 2. So that'll be interesting to see. Also looking at the wind. You know, I said we were looking for a gust in the wind. Yeah. Well, there have been peaks all along, obviously, as we've got the rain coming in. But maybe that was a little peak there. Maybe that was the peak due to the eclipse. And now the wind is beginning to die down a little bit. So that may be something to do with it. Pressure. Well, we've got low pressure out to the west.
That's our problem.
It is our problem, and so I think today this experiment is not going to work because the pressure just keeps on falling due to the low pressure coming in from the west, so it's being swamped by the normal local weather. And lastly, the radiation. Do you believe we're getting any sunlight through at the moment, Philippa? I know it seems unlikely, but we are still getting energy from the sun. But the interesting thing here, this is where it was originally. Obviously we've had clouds coming across, but the energy is actually beginning to die down almost to 0 now. So certainly as we go towards totality, as the moon goes right in front of the sun, then we will get down to 0 and have no energy whatsoever. So there you go.
You know, the thing I find most ironic about this whole event is that this was meant to be the eclipse that was watched by the most people ever in Britain because of television and everything. And the whole thing seemed destined to be hidden from us all. Don't you think that's ironic, Michael?
You've got a very nice sense of irony, Philippa. We can now go to the Isles of Scilly, which of course are the westernmost part of the United Kingdom, and that's the picture there. John, look.
Yes, we've got about 5 minutes to go in the Isles of Scilly before
yeah,
totality
6:12
comes.
here, but 5 minutes there, yeah?
Yes, a bit further west, so they get the shadow before us. Oh, that's really looking good. That's really looking good.
5 minutes to go. It's a good shot from the Isles of Scilly, eh?
Yes, if that cloud stays like that, then I think they should see quite an interesting corona through that cloud. I don't think that will worry them too much.
John has actually brought his lucky hat in here with a Blue Peter badge on it, so that's obviously why we can get pictures from the Isles of Scilly.
Very special hats, worked every time.
Anyway,
so
enough
far.
of that. Look outside.
Oh,
actually, on this television picture inside here, it doesn't show it quite so well, but out there, when you go outside to look at the castle on Mount St Michael, you can see how dark it is and how the clouds have gathered, but the crowds are there looking out over there, taking the odd snapshot.
And there are some breaks in the cloud to the south. If they will hurry up, then Patrick might get one of those gaps in Falmouth as they drift across.
Okay. I think the street lights are coming on here in Penzance. They're automatic, I imagine, John, aren't they?
Yes.
You can see them there, look.
Yes. Some come on by timers, but a lot these days come on automatically as their sensors are triggered as they get towards dusk. And people at home have got to watch out now because their neighbour's security light may very well come on their garage, triggered by the folk across the road's cat or whatever.
And this is our best picture, John, isn't it? This is the picture from the Hercules.
Yes,
I'm imagining
that's really
that it's right
fine.
over us. 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes, isn't it, to go to totality?
4 minutes here, and they're a little bit further west from us, so they will get it a bit earlier.
So a bit ahead of us, in fact.
Bit ahead of us.
And this, I think, is Alderney, and Jamie Theakston's under that one in Alderney. Jamie, you there?
Yes, Michael, we're here in Alderney. As you can see, we've got a great view here. There's a little bit of light cloud just blowing over us here. It's actually become remarkably cold. I'm joined, of course, by Dr. Chris Riley, BBC astronomer. Chris, it's getting quite eerie now here.
It is really eerie, Jamie. We've both got our coats on. There's a chill descended in the air. There's only a few % of the sun left, and it's just tantalisingly visible through a gap in the clouds right above our heads here. But the wind, I swear, has changed direction. I know Patrick doesn't believe this, but I think it has.
We've got, there's a gannet colony, of course, not far away from here. There were a lot of birds around earlier. They seem to have cleared. Is that a sense that it's getting darker?
Certainly, there seems to be a kind of hush that's descending over nature here as well. Although the wind has got up, everything else is pretty silent, really. So it's getting kind of spooky.
And the cloud cover, I mean, it's extraordinary now. I don't think I've ever seen clouds like this before. I mean, it's broken cloud, but it seems to be illuminated around the edges.
It's a real kind of mackerel sky, I think it's called, where you've got these kind of patches around the clouds that are illuminated, as you say, and as the temperature drops further, these clouds should shrink both in height and in width, so it might just clear up, and that gap that we can see the eclipse through now might just stay with us over totality.
Right, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. I know they've got 2 minutes 47 now until totality in Cornwall. Does that mean how long until we get totality here?
About 7 minutes 40 for us here, so we'll be about 5 minutes behind totality in Penzance with Michael.
Right, a real sense of excitement building here, Michael, but let's hand back to Cornwall.
Oh, 2 minutes 24, John, now to totality. It's really dark outside. And this is the
really
Isles of Scilly. Now, if we've got 2 minutes and 17 seconds, they've only got just over a minute, haven't they, until totality?
They've got just over a minute, about a minute and 10 seconds from now, and we can see the crescent has thinned now. It's very, very thin. We can see the horns here are now beginning to draw in, and this is when your hands sweat. The hairs on the back of your neck really get tense. Here are the horns drawing in now, and then we're going to see this fade all the way down to a single point of light. I don't think we're going to get a very spectacular show of Bailey's beads as we go into totality.
We'll come back to that in a minute, John, but just here, Look how dark it's got outside here.
Isn't it
at Marazion?
absolutely wonderful? Wonderful.
It turns you on, does it, John?
It really does. And we just lost the picture there, but if we can get that back, then we'll see a plunge into totality in the Scillies in about 30 seconds.
Oh, right.
If we can get that back.
Can we still see the Scilly Islands, because we've got about 30 seconds to totality,
We've got about 15 seconds now.
15 seconds?
And so we've got 10 seconds to go. In there. Here we are, single point of light, breaks into a couple of beads, disappears. Now they'll be able to see the corona. If they can't see it through the clouds, we're coming up here. Now
here's the Hercules, John, so...
Okay.
And they're about where we are, so what are we doing? We're about a minute away?
We've got a bit less than a minute, I think, to go. They're a bit to the west of us, and again we can see things thinning and the horns drawing in.
Great shouting going on outside here, and at the Radio 1 outing there.
Absolutely. Hope nobody gets dazzled by all the flashes that go off. Tremendous.
And here's the Hercules.
Here's the Hercules again. We can see the horns drawing in again, coming down to a single point light, about 30 seconds or so to go here.
People are yelling.
Now it is dark. See that the horizon to the south is still bright. We're looking out of the zone of totality there. Looks like a huge end of the world experience to the west. Still light towards Patrick in Falmouth. Isn't this absolutely wonderful? Now you're convinced this is what people come for.
It's extraordinary out here.
Here from the Hercules, we're beginning to see little beads forming at the end of the arc here as the last bit of sun is disappearing behind the moon. It's all breaking up now into this final point of light. Do you see what I mean about the gloom descending?
It is quite extraordinary. Look at the atmosphere out there.
Now, here we've got a fascinating picture. Here's the sun disappearing. Here are some Bailey's beads. And there is totality. We begin to see some prominences around the sun here.
And leave aside all the atmosphere and the height. This is what the scientists are looking at as well, isn't it?
This is really wonderful. Now we've got midnight outside. Midnight at midday.
But
now
just a little bit of light on the far horizon.
Here's the corona now. This wonderful structure of the sun's atmosphere being twisted and contorted and heated by the sun's magnetic field up to several million degrees. The only time you can see it by eye.
So this is the time when you can actually see what the sun does.
Absolutely. I spent 30 years studying this outer atmosphere of the sun. For me,
it's a completely eerie sign. Well, it's totally dark outside here, apart from just a bit of light on the far horizon, which is outside the zone of totality, isn't it?
yes. That's because the total zone is so narrow.
Yeah.
We're looking out of the zone of totality. Now we're beginning to see the lightning in the west as the total shadow is now passing over us. We've got 2 or 3 more seconds to go here. Totality is now essentially over here. Daylight returns.
And it is. That's extraordinary, isn't it? You can see actually on the Hercules picture, you can see the light coming. Here you can see it actually on the horizon.
Absolutely. And now if we look to the east, we can see the shadow moving away. Patrick is probably about to come out of the shadow in Falmouth in about 5 seconds or so, and then the shadow is still heading eastwards. Totality.
This is the diamond ring, isn't it?
This is the diamond ring coming out. Isn't that beautiful? The most precious, the most elusive diamond that you will ever see. Now we're back with the filtered camera here, and now we can see the arc of the sun returning. Those were incredible pictures from the plane.
Did it do as much for you as it normally does, John, despite all the clouds?
Even unfortunately seeing it here on the monitor, well, you can see I'm still smiling. This has been absolutely super. And now the shadow's heading off over the channel.
It's heading towards Patrick Moore, isn't it?
It's left Patrick, it's now heading towards Alderney. They've got about a minute and a bit to go before totality.
Hang on a second, John. Let's see if we can see Patrick Moore. We can see how he reacted. Patrick, did you enjoy that?
Well, in a way I did. It was an eerie experience, and clearly the aircraft showed that there was a marvellous corona. But down here, unfortunately, in St Anthony Head, we were under total cloud. The drop in the light level was quite amazing, more than I've ever known before, and the rise at the end, when the totality ended, was equally marked. But it was a strange, weird experience, one that I'm, in a way, glad to have been through, but very sorry we didn't see what was quite clearly a magnificent solar corona. But you'll tie that up in our Sky at Night programme later on, but at the present moment I fear that we have to say that from here we didn't see the corona, but we did have a strange experience, and one that I think very few people will ever have again. So at least we have been through the last English total solar eclipse of the millennium.
So it was really atmosphere you got rather than anything scientific or astronomical, Patrick?
Well, we got something. We got the temperature drop, certainly, and the light drop. We got that, and some strange atmospheric effects too. A strange kind of breeze I've not come across before. We learnt something from it. Of course, we didn't actually see it ourselves. And that's a great disappointment, but, well, we make the best of a bad job. And at least we saw something. We did have one tantalising view of the partial phase about 10 minutes earlier.
Patrick, thanks very much indeed. Well, there was extraordinary scenes outside here when the shadow passed over and went totally dark and everybody started screaming. Philippa's out there. What's the atmosphere like there now, Philippa?
Well,
even without the
teary.
sun.
We're very teary. Once in a lifetime, you had two, didn't you?
Yes.
It brought back a lot of memories, didn't it?
Yeah. I just went back in time.
You went back in time. It was darker then, you said. But we were looking at the beach and people were hugging and kissing and people have been drawing suns in the sand, and it's just a very magical experience, even though the whole place is covered in cloud.
Yeah. It's just like coming back to normal now.
Yeah.
Things, the horizon over there was beautiful,
Wasn't it beautiful? Yeah. And the birds were flying all around.
Yeah.
I think down on the beach, I didn't hear any noise from the animals. I didn't hear any crickets start to chirp from up here.
It was just all the crowd of...
There was lots of whistling from the crowds, lots of people reactions, lots of people hugging and kissing, as I said. Michael, I don't know what Helen's doing down on the beach. We'll go and find out about her experiments later. Michael.
Okay, we'll come back to you. We can let you repair your makeup after all that tearing and crying. This is a picture from Alderney, I think, John, if you can see it from here.
Wonderful, because you can see the red prominences very clearly. Here's, this looks like third contact coming. There's the return of the sun.
And
just have a quick glimpse at those red splots. Those are prominences in the solar atmosphere. We've now come to the diamond ring effect, and as it grows, can you see little blips on the end of it? Those are particular craters on the moon being illuminated.
And this is the final eclipse on UK soil from Alderney, isn't it?
Now it's left the UK, yes, and we're giving it to the Europeans to have a bit of fun with. And they can play with it and then post it off further eastwards.
How much can scientists get from that? You said, there's the prominences, but is this one of those rare opportunities to see what they actually are?
It's a rare opportunity to see them directly from the ground, and from the ground we can deploy very much more sophisticated instruments. We've obviously got spacecraft which aren't actually in orbit around the Earth, they're sort of orbiting the Sun, in fact, that give us some of the really super pictures in different sorts of wavelengths.
Well, John, thanks. We were seeing what the site was from Alderney. We can go to Alderney and see what the people in the Channel Islands made of it. Jamie.
Oh dear, I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like that. You could probably hear the crowd behind us. Did you enjoy that? Chris, I mean, remarkable scenes then.
Jamie, we've just stood in the shadow of the moon. I mean, I can't say more than that. It was travelling over our heads at 2,000 miles an hour. Everything went dark. There was this eerie twilight around us, 360 degrees. I'm so moved. It was the most amazing experience of my life.
Now, it's brightening up rapidly now, but explain to... I mean, it literally came right across the channel at a rate, well, 2,000 miles an hour. And we can actually see that. I mean, couldn't you?
You could literally see the sky darkening behind us here, and this huge wall of darkness darkness rushing over our heads and out, as John says, towards France now. The last eclipse on UK soil for 91 years is over.
Unbelievable. Day broke during the day. I mean, it really was one of the most exciting things I've seen. So now it's gone, it's off to France.
It is. We'll be following it further on there over its course as it hurries across, even as far as Iran and onto India over the next hour or so.
Right, extraordinary scenes. Thanks so much. Let's go back to Cornwall. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Let's have a look outside now and see what's actually happening there.
Well, we can see the horizon is now light.
We can see it now, but let's have a look at it during totality, because we were actually concentrating, weren't we, John? Mostly, and obviously, on the shot out of the Hercules. But the atmosphere out here was the thing that kept distracting me.
It really was spectacular. I mean, it really was the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was. Look at all those lights flashing. People trying to capture it, ruining it, I suppose, by those flashlights.
I always love people that take them over. Too late now, yes. I mean, it's really midnight darkness there. It really is absolutely amazing. And this super lighting effect to the south. If you tried to set it up that way, I doubt if you could.
If you were a film director, it'd cost you millions to do that, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you want to go and see the 2001 eclipse?
Well, I don't know, I might be tempted. I wasn't tempted before, but it certainly was.
But you are now.
Yeah, I'd like to see without having to gas to you about it. But if we look outside now, normality returns. A grey August day in Cornwall out there on the beach.
But to be quite honest, I mean, even though we didn't actually see the corona ourselves here, the memory of this is going to stay with people for the rest of their lives, just as it did with those people that saw it in 1927.
OK, let's go out on that beach now to Philippa and to Helen and to see what those experiments actually did and what the weather's going to do.
Well, I have to say, it's warmed up hugely, thank goodness, because it was about time.
At long last.
As for your experiments, how did it all go?
Do you know, it's actually fantastic. Let me show you what happened. Over here, you can see the temperature did actually drop during totality. There was the peak of it there, and it actually started dropping down as we got through to the total eclipse. Perhaps more dramatically, which is really great as a weather person to see. You know, I told you the low pressure may not work. It kept on falling, the pressure. Look, from 11 o'clock onwards, 11:10, it started rising. Not a lot, 0.1 of a millibar, which is not a lot, but it is significant because that wouldn't have been happening due to the normal weather conditions today.
Right.
So that's quite amazing. The radiation, how much sunshine we were getting through, the power of it, look at that, went right down from about 50 watts per square metre down to 0.
Yep.
And now, as you can see, it is beginning to even out and come back up again as well. So that was quite an interesting thing. The wind, well, the wind speed, it did certainly drop during totality just a little bit, and you can see it's now picked up once again. We're beginning to see the gusts picking up once more. So in all, it's been really interesting. I'm fascinated by it. It was great.
I have to go back and talk about whether our girls heard their Spanish radio. Hi, girls. Hello.
Yep.
Let me just, right, come on. Did you hear them saying hello?
No.
Oh, no. Why not?
Well, it did become clearer, but because there's so much equipment and everything, it didn't say it, kind of.
There was a lot of noise out here as well.
Yeah.
All of you lot were making a lot of noise.
Yeah. That's kind of why.
So you think that didn't help, but you did hear a little bit, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, so the experiment actually worked in that you
Yeah.
heard Spanish radio?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Jolly well done, girls. And I want to catch you up with the animals if I can while we're out here. I've got time, I think, yes? Fantastic. Did the dogs howl? No, the dogs didn't howl. What did they do?
They didn't do very much at all, really. There was a lot of people about, and the guy's okay anyway. He just sat and looked and was interested in what was going on. The dog didn't really affect him at all.
He's just having an exciting day and enjoying himself,
Absolutely.
isn't he? But come here, because I do have exclusive news from the cricket enclosure here in the tent on the beach. The crickets did, in fact, chirrup. So that attitude that they had at the beginning of the programme of, oh, we're not going to be impressed at all, they did, in fact, chirrup. And Sam, our snowy owl here, okay, Sam, show us your eyes, because these eyes apparently went huge. Don't have my finger off, will you? These eyes apparently went huge during the eclipse. The chickens did absolutely nothing, and the other owls weren't very impressed either, I don't think. So all in all on the beach, I would say we've had a pretty successful time of it with all of our experiments. And whatever, the atmosphere was just fantastic. Everyone enjoyed themselves. Everyone's a little calm now. There's a kind of an anti-climax feeling. Everyone's calmed down. Michael.
Thanks, Philip, and your owls. Well, of course, the eclipse is going now across Europe, heading for eventually the Bay of Bengal, and we're going to get some pictures now from Reims in France. Now they got a clear shot, and they're having a big celebration. Look,
so we're sort of resetting again.
Yeah, I know, you're resetting the clock.
Resetting the clock. Wow, they're having a good time.
They are,
Here we're
yeah.
seeing the last piece of sun again disappearing. They've
It's an
got some
endless
cloud there.
replay, isn't it?
Oh, there's some wonderful beads being formed on the end here. Just watch as this now shrinks down. Here's a beautiful pink prominence. We're gradually chopping this up into separate little babies.
Oh, look, there's the beads.
This is wonderful. And now it all disappears, and hopefully somebody will take a filter off, and
They're going mad, and that's the main square in Reims, isn't it? And there it is, totality.
Here we are, this is totality. Now we're beginning to see the corona. It's a very busy corona because we're coming up to the maximum of the sun's activity cycle. So this is really it's faint, pearly light. About the brightness of the moon, in fact.
Well, they've been a bit luckier than us in France by the cathedral there.
Here we can see the prominences again.
Oh yes, wonderful shot. Well, anyway, let's come back here and to those experiments that we were doing out there on the beach. We better tie them up to Philippa, to Helen and Francisco out there on the beach.
Thank you very much. Well, Francisco, how does that rate in your eclipse viewing?
It was a great experience. We couldn't see the corona, but we saw a beautiful landscape still here. We saw the shadow of the moon rushing from there above us and all the crowds shouting, and it was amazing. And to see this orange light around St. Michael's Mount, it was amazing. Really, really impressive eclipse.
It was actually quite amazing watching you because you came so agitated. You were running around like this, checking all your filters. Do you think you will have learnt anything from viewing this eclipse from the Earth?
Yes, well, we saw some images from the aircraft, and they were big prominences, and we saw a very roundish corona. We will discuss that tonight, I think. And it was a very interesting eclipse, almost typical of a maximum period of solar activity, which is coming to that in a couple of years' time. I'm sure that people in the rest of Europe have learned a lot about this eclipse. Yes.
Okay. Francisco, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a
I know
pleasure.
it would have been better for you to be somewhere where it wasn't cloudy.
No, it's all right. It's all
been
right.
great here on the beach. I don't know if we've got time to go to Radio 1 to see how they're going, or if we're going straight back to Michael. You'll soon see.
Okay, we are. We're going to take a very quick look at Radio 1 to see how they're going. Oh, we lost Radio 1 for the moment. I hope you noticed they were rubbing each other down there. Poor old Francisco came in his shorts and everything this morning, being terribly optimistic, and he's definitely put some more clothes on. Parky, you were, as a scientist, interested in the corona, weren't you?
Yes, it is absolutely remarkable to be able to see the outer atmosphere of a star, and having this phenomenal coincidence, because it isn't going to last forever, a few million years, we won't get any more total eclipses, to actually see this outer atmosphere. And here we can see now, this is the corona. We can see the prominences poking out around here, and we can see this very busy corona. We don't actually understand how it gets so hot, and this is one of the great challenges.
What is it, 1 million degrees centigrade, isn't it?
A few million degrees,
A few million, yeah.
And you can see these streamers coming out. There's a beautiful helmet streamer there as the field shapes the material, chaps it, and then thunders waves into it to heat it up.
So leave aside the mysticism, this is the science, isn't it?
This is the science, and this to me, I can't describe it. The first eclipse I saw, it was a life's ambition. And now to see it again.
This one's pretty close,
super.
Parky, thanks very much indeed. Mark, thanks very much indeed. Philippa, Helen, Francisco on the beach, thanks. That's all from us here in Cornwall for now. But please join us again at 11:35 this evening on BBC One for Total Eclipse Highlights, when we report on the impact of the eclipse from all over the southwest and from along the whole track as it crosses Europe, the Middle East and India. The eclipse here, of course, is still not over. It remains partial until the moon finally uncovers the whole disk of the sun. And that's at about 12:30, making the duration of the whole event 2 hours and 35 minutes. But the moments that I think all of us here will take home with us, are those 2 minutes of curious stillness and darkness when everyone could hardly believe what was happening. Goodbye from all of us here, and we'll leave you with that magical moment once again.
The Eclipse Forum is being frequented by several of the top solar scientists this week. To find out what they have to say, visit BBC Online at www.bbc.co.uk.